Good evening and welcome to Coach's Corner. We've got an exciting, fun live episode tonight. We have our men in the field from War of the Phoenix down in, I believe, Aidenveld, correct? Excellent. Let me unmute. There
The
we go.
hell, a bombardment.
That's right. So with us, and I'll go from left to right, we have Duke Aileghnan, Duke Zipster, and Count Octamedes. Octa. So, guys, you guys are there live at the event. You've been there for a number of days now, and let me put you full screen, and you guys can start a chatting about it.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We are live at War of the Phoenix, and we've been having a great time. If you're not here and you don't know anything about it, it is the event that rose from the ashes that from the event that was Estrella War, and it's held a little bit earlier. But not too much earlier. It's still around the same time frame. We moved from the southeast side of the valley to the western side of the valley, but Estrella also moved around over the course of its long history, so it's not uncommon. It's just always been somewhere here around Phoenix, Arizona. Um, so, it's typically high 50s, 60s during the day, and maybe low 50s at night. We've had a little bit of rain this week, but that's a little bit more than normal. But I would encourage everyone that if it's not on your calendar of events, to consider putting it on if you can get out here, because it's a really good time. The first day of fighting, I think, was Tuesday, where we had a 5-man tournament and quite a bunch of fun pickups. I know you participated in the 5-man.
Right? 5-man was excellent. It was very exciting and very dynamic. There were about 7 teams, I think, maybe more, and it was just a big meat grinder of 5-man melee. All the rattan you can eat.
Was there any was it just a big bear pit, or were there any separate rules for it?
We fought it. We did an open field, and it was just like a bear pit. Winner stays, and then they just keep rotating in the next teams. And then we did almost like a bridge battle or kind of a hallway battle where you had limited space, and then the castle battle side. So it was a lot of fun. It was really dynamic, really great teams, a lot of people having fun.
Yesterday, Wednesday, the Kingdom of the Outlands hosted the Outlands Prize Tournament. It decided to rain on us as we were doing it, but we still had, I thought, a really nice turnout.
Bob, you filming?
Indeed. Sorry, the peanut gallery was throwing peanuts. But so the Allen's Prize tournament, if I had to guess, I'd say it probably had about 60 people.
In the rain.
Yeah, in the rain, and they opened up a lot of different pits, and they kept it this year just to try to keep it moving. It was all bear pits, and they counted victories for the winner that way. And Sir Neo from Aidenveld was the heavy combatant who got the most kills during the course of the time period. So big shout out, congrats to Sir Neo. And I feel terrible. I have forgot the name of the gentle who won from the rapier side, but there were.
It was Rabbit.
Oh, it was Rabbit. That's right. Also from the Kingdom of Aidenveld.
Bring it home. Yeah,
he fought in both. He fought in both things.
I think Talon's ready.
His Grace Xerxes.
Yes, His Grace Xerxes from the august Kingdom of Callantyr is here to join us. I'm going to pop up and let you have the interview seat here.
Oh no! No!
We have burning questions about that.
Yeah, what do we got?
Everyone from Coach's Corner wants to know, and that is, how tall is your wizard staff?
How tall is your wizard?
About 14.
About 14. So not only do we.
Who we got on the call?
This is
live.
Corner.
Yeah,
This
you're
is live.
Right.
It's
Sure. Like everybody is what you're saying? All right, cool.
Your mom's probably.
The fighting you participated in. Well, hey now.
Yeah, this is live.
Oh, sorry. F you.
So how's the fighting been for you, Xerxes? You did the.
I was the 5-man, being a winner on the winning team of the 5-man.
Oh,
Well, we had this one guy that just fell against a hay bale once. That was cool. That was nice.
Oh, were you guys
Thanks
on the
for
same
that.
team?
No.
Oh,
He went down and I went, thank God. My ribs, thank you.
I got mugged.
Yeah. So it's cool to take shots, guys. I shouldn't be here. Like, I don't.
Well, let's ask another question.
All right.
How was
What do we
the?
got? Is there a chat forum? Or?
No.
How do we
I don't
all
think we
touch
can read
the
the chat.
camera?
Because you're gonna get us disconnected on that.
Oh no.
Oh no. How was Outland's
Outland's
Prize?
Prize?
You fought in the rain.
Yes. So, as a previous winner of the Ellen's Prize, I'm gonna be a dickhead about it.
Live, Xerxes.
I know. What do you want from me? I can only be me. All right. So the Allen's Prize is actually a fucking sick tournament. Like, I shouldn't be here. This is bad.
I'll translate. The Outland's Prize is a very awesome tournament.
Yes,
and just in general,
auspicious.
there's usually a lot of different high-level fighters that show up to fight in that.
Yep.
As Xerxes so humbly pointed out, he is a former winner from last year, and I'm pretty sure he beat me up a lot last year, which was not very nice of him as a Duke to beat up in lowly count at the time.
What I like about this event and these tournaments is we have fighters and royalty from coast to coast.
Yeah.
There are so
that's
many
money.
kingdoms represented here, and the sharing of styles and knowledge and camaraderie has been just really great. And
Yeah.
from being a kid from Montier, the pickups we had today, just in our backyard here, were amazing. Folks were great and gracious with their time and their teaching and listening and really sharing the experience. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we so right now we're in the CNA nominate camp, and it's we travel a lot, and so there's a bunch of people that have taken care of us over the years. Malone from the east. I've been out to Merudier's. Tall Tim has taken care of me a couple times, right? And so we had a bunch of them in camp this year, and it's been a lot of fun, but a lot of organizing, more organizing than we're used to, but you gotta pay that love back for when people take care of you. So we had a bit of a practice kind of just in camp. We have a big open area, and I think it was like Octa and James the Holy were like, let's fight, and I think that started the whole thing, or it might have been Luther, but yeah, then we had a nice little set of pickup fights, and it was really cool just seeing how different people approach fighting. You've got multiple kings, multiple dukes, multiple counts, and just everybody's here.
Share knowledge.
And like, Xerxes is a former wrestler, right? So he's a little quicker in and out, and you've got Octa who's like, I'm just going to stand here and block, and then you're going to do something stupid and I'm going to make you pay for it. But it's just seeing the different approaches and how different people do it, and how current contenders for crown are doing different things. It's just been very eye-opening and really cool to see. So.
Cool. We had somebody actually comment, a viewer comment, said that you guys look like you're really enjoying Phoenix War, and they asked, does the fighting start tomorrow? It sounds like there's been fighting throughout the week. Maybe you could describe some of the things that have been going on.
There was a ravine battle today where they actually went and fought in a ravine for several hours. We kept seeing folks trickling back after that and hitting the showers, and then some would come and hit our pickups and do fighting with us. And so that was great. I think we had the individual 5-man yesterday or the day before.
Yep.
And then tomorrow, I think, is really the main open field battle where we can show the castle. There's a little castle. There's some hay bales. So I'm sure the armies will muster bright and early. They had the war drums at like 7 a.m. this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Something like that going off.
That's something that you don't get everywhere, but the Outlands has war drums that they bring with them. And as far as I know, from way back in my parents' reign, they started putting that in the war truck budget, things like that. And I may be way off base, so someone might correct me, but just waking up to those drums, or when the Outlands are traveling around, they're playing drums. They're playing drums when you're fighting, and it's just a very cool ambiance.
I know to get out of bed.
That's how you know. Sounds like, oh, they're mustering and they're circling around. I better get out of bed.
Yeah.
We did have another question. How deep was the ravine, or was it, since you're in a flat field, was it just marked off?
No, it was an actual wash. So on the side, the Phoenix International Raceway is where we're at, and it's actually, for all intents and purposes, it rained and it sucked, but there's no standing water right now.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, there's no, and even when it was wet, there's no mud, right? It's just water. So that's been really nice to deal with in comparison to some of the years past. But there's a wash, where a lot of the water gets filtered out just off to the side. And so it's 15, 20 feet.
Yeah,
like,
you have to walk
at an
down
angle.
into it.
It's fun. Yeah.
And so it's really cool. And on one side, there's a bit of a broken field. And then you can go down into the ravine. And at least from what I remember last year, I'm a little broken this year. I had a hip surgery. So I'll have to rely on these guys this knowledge.
I didn't fight him.
No,
Me neither, because my knee hurts.
fair enough.
Excellent. Another actually question from a listener. Are there any bucket list fights that you've been seeking out?
Oh,
And this is for anybody.
Oh, many.
Yeah.
Ed's here.
Yeah. Duke Edward. Great. Aileghnan.
Alien Bob.
Xerxes.
Hey, we'll get one.
We'll get
Don't you worry.
There is nothing but bucket list fights here at Phoenix.
That's what's lovely. Yeah.
Nothing but bucket list fights.
Very
Especially
cool.
for those of us who are a little less traveled than others.
Oh. That's why we love having you.
Yeah. No,
Everybody's like, I want to fight Octa.
that's the beautiful part about it. It's like you finally come to a part where everybody wants to hang out with their friends, and everybody comes out because they're friends. But then you end up here. We've all heard the stories of the heroes that we grew up with, and you get there and you go, oh, I got to get that guy. I got to get that.
Yeah.
Guy. Got to get that guy.
And they're all still
Yeah.
supremely relevant.
Yeah.
And that's the amazing part of our society. So
That is like a wild portion of the game, right? There's dudes
Yeah.
out there like 2 crowns ago was Mark Von Neumann from Aitenveld, and that dude is a retired military guy who retired at 58, and I think he won crown at 58. And like the dude's just a monster, right? He's gonna throw a million shots. He's never gonna get tired. He's gonna chase you down, and then he may not be able to walk the next day, but he's gonna give you the fight that like you absolutely deserve. And like I love that about the SCA is you can be as young as you want or as old as you want and still bring a fight to the game.
And that's the great thing about the longevity of this event and having it being this long. You can go out and fight your heart out one day or a day and a half, and then take a break. Hang out with your friends in camp, goof off, go check Merchant's Row or the great food that's here. Hang out with all the new friends you've made, chat more, then boom, back out on the field the next day, and away you go. So definitely worth the ride.
And I would say like growing up in the Outlands and coming to Australia and War of the Phoenix every year, like the thing that I loved about this event is you wake up and you fight until you can't, and then you put your stuff down, and then you party and hang out. Whereas, like every war's got their thing, right? And Gulf Wars to us was always the war we went to where it's like, oh, if you want pickups, like absolutely, that's the place to go to for pickups. But like, it's also a great time where the merchants are set up super nice and the place is set up super nice. So you get to hang out with your family and do different things. So this was always the like, sorry, Mom, I'll see you when it gets dark. When the street lights are shutting down, we'll see you. And, it's every war's got their different things. So.
Yeah, we did 7 hours of pickups today, so it was a big day.
Yeah.
After the war fight.
We got any other questions from the audience?
Right now, yes. No, that pretty much covered them. Some people are waving hi from different places, the mid-realm. Yeah. Somebody posted that they'd heard that Duke Sir Man is back from ACL surgery, so say hi from His Lordship Marius. Marius? Is that right? Yep. So
Wait, who's back?
What does the overall attendance out there look like? How many people are there?
Pretty good.
I don't actually know. I mean, it looks full. Like it doesn't look small, but I haven't heard any numbers.
Okay.
It's a huge
the mountains
site.
are pretty though.
Yeah. Huge sites spread out everywhere.
Flip the mountains around.
Yeah.
Oh, can you see them?
Oh yeah. If you can look over all the wizard
look at
stuff.
the view is pretty. Like I don't know how to view. Half the time, everybody focuses so much on this, that, and the other thing, but it's sort of like we're here. It doesn't matter. You're in a place that you might not have been before. And coming from the flatlands of the Midwest, myself, I'm like, cool mountains. I'm good.
Yeah.
And this is only 20 minutes from the airport when you come in.
Yeah.
So
It's beautiful. So
easy trip.
you might as well
Here-
take in what you
Here we had a question. It said, what's the biggest unique thing about this war that sets it apart from the others?
the rain.
Wow. I don't know. You've been to
Yeah,
Penn,
actually-
you've been to Gulf. You've been to
I shouldn't answer this.
yeah. What about you, Octa? You've been to.
I mean-
you've got Ontier West. You've got like
Great.
Granzik. You've been to a bunch of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the sheer volume of areas that people are from.
Yeah.
I've met people from all over today that I would normally not get to meet. And thanks to you guys hosting all of us and
100%.
really making a family out of all us ragtag fugitive
Because
fighters.
we're
and
usually
stuff.
the fugitives, you know?
I think that's just really the magic of it. It's nice and central. Everybody can get here easy, and it's a great time. It's a great time.
Yeah, it's a collective.
Yeah, and I don't know, the fighting's just a little different too.
Yeah.
They're looking at this guy.
Right.
Like
In what way? Describe it.
So I would say shields get bigger the farther east you go.
Yeah.
And so like Aitenveld has their Aitenveld standard heater, which is like 24 by 36, right? But like that's kind of going a little bit of the way of the dodo. Like we've still got quite a few people that fight it, and it's still a strong style, you know. But I noticed the more east you go, the more like war doors you see, or like the giant shields, or you know, like you'll go to Penzik and they'll be like, all right, we're gonna run up and we're gonna kneel right here on this bridge, and we look at that and we're just like, absolutely not. Like we need our feet, we want to move, and we're used to dealing with the Outlands or Palantir or whatever, where you know they're a running group, right? We open field battle and they're gonna wheel hard, they're gonna go around, and like if you set your shield down or if you try and like line up too big of a shield wall, they're just gonna go around you. And so that's something like I've noticed. The other interesting thing is even on like big melees, and I was watching this at Penzik this year, is you'll see a lot of times where two lines will come up and they'll meet, right? And you'll see one side of that line will push farther and farther and farther, but they don't ever like turn to deal with the side there, right? Which is like the easiest way to just take a line. Whereas here it's very like you have to keep your head on a swivel. Like there's gonna probably be someone from the side.
Very dynamic.
It's also probably why we do death from behind the way we do, which is a very like we try to be as safe as possible. Like if somebody's behind you, cool, wrap them up. Hey, you're dead from behind. You know, you don't have to hit them in the side of the head. You don't have to wait for them to turn and look at you. But it's not to say like the fighting here is any harder than it is anywhere else or any. It's just it's a different style. We also deal a lot less with archers, which may be why our fighting style has kind of gone the way it has, or why we fight the way we do. And we're a little more spear heavy than we are shield heavy. But it's, you know, it's just interesting to see, you know, the farther east you go, the more arrows you get. And you know, we become pin cushions at that point. We're relying on our little shields to protect us or whatever. But yeah,
you know, I had a question because I remember going to Australia years ago, and there was a rule that was combined with the death from behind, and that was if an opposing army or somebody comes over you and you're down, they can basically call you dead, like you're dead on the ground, so that you don't fall over, pop up behind a line. And is that still going on? Is that kind of the way that it goes out there?
Yeah, that happened to me yesterday. Actually.
Yeah, and that's
which I deserved because I was just running.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those too. It's like, you know, in a I guess in a real battle, I mean, nothing we do is 100% accurate or whatever, but like in a real battle, as they walk through, right, you got people stabbing people on the ground. You know, so we deal with that and we just say, cool, if you come charging and you trip over a spear and you land at people's feet, they just reach down and they just touch you with their weapon and they say you're dead on the ground, because you know it's safer than hitting them or waiting for, you know, a person to pop up behind you or whatever. And you're like, well, you know, if you don't have that option, what do you do? You literally you have to have somebody stand there and wait so this person doesn't pop up behind you. But it's like, but it's just, it's what we grew up with. It's different.
Yeah, as a guy that grew up with zero death from behind, zero death on the ground, anything like that, like you're constantly coming up on people and going, hey, what's going on? Like get their attention so that it's okay to hit them. But in the reality of it, if we're going to try and recreate a battle, there's going to be some things that happen. And you're just like, no, I'm going to take advantage of this situation. And we literally saw it yesterday. It was like, no, in real life, if this was where we were supposed to be playing, that would happen. They were going to take advantage. They're going to win that battle. And I love that in a way because we no longer we don't care so much about these two lines that we have, and instead it actually becomes a battle-formed appreciation for engagement.
Yeah,
it's like cool. Yeah, this stuff happened in this moment, but in reality, somebody's far past you and coming back to clean up and protect their people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't just get engagement with you. No, I have the advantage. I'm going to take advantage of my advantage that I have, and then win that battle. And that those people were the heroes at that moment, where they finished their one foe and then came back and took care of everything else. Like, cool. No, I'm not going to come and be like, "Hi, how's it going? You looking at me yet?" And then hit them. Like, no, that never happened. Not one Gaul looked at a Roman and went, "Hi, can you see me?" Nobody said that.
I've never been hit nicely that way.
No.
either,
No.
Right? Like,
As soon as you select to make eye contact, you get jacked.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I got my
So,
brother with a 6-inch dagger just stabbing you in the throat.
yeah. If you're going to get period about it, like,
Yeah.
this is probably one of the best ways. You have to have your wherewithal. You have to be ready. Your engagement has to be ready to go.
Yeah.
And I love that, because certain fighters, we get to a point where we're like, all right, well, we understand certain things, but now you got to challenge yourself a little bit. So now you get to the point where, like, oh no, I have to be aware all the time,
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful part of it. And it's like, it gets you engaged again, get you going a little bit more. So
And that's like the more recognized you get too, like the harder the fighting gets.
yeah,
Because if you're
Yeah.
a nobody, right, and you're out there like having the time of your life, like the next day, I've had this, when I was younger, had this happen. I roll out and I'm like, I'm an outland spear person, blah, 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 doing crazy, killing people. And then I come back the next day and they're like, that's that little turd that was crushing us, and then I don't get to swing a shot for like 2 days straight because they're like, we're not letting that idiot do that again.
Nobody knows I'm a 13th level wizard. Nobody knows.
So, but that's kind of a fun, and like even grouping with some of these guys sometimes too, where you're like, if you're standing next to Aileghnan, like, oh man, I'm not the target. Like,
Thank
I
God,
should
finally.
not be the target.
Finally.
Yeah, Aileghnan should be the target. And,
My favorite part about it.
yeah,
I'm no longer a target. It's pretty.
Yeah.
Like,
We have a lot of royals.
Some
Yeah.
people know who I am.
yeah.
Not many though. It's kind of cool. You get to be a note. You get to kind of slide under a little bit. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's fun. So,
Heck yeah.
We lost
like
someone,
Octa.
though.
Nobody knows who Octa is.
Nobody knows who Octa is until he just.
I watch him fight. I'm
strikes
good.
Both butt cheeks.
I'm good.
Ha!
I like my
But-
butt.
I ate my fair share of rattan today.
Yeah. Do you want to go grab Maneko?
Maneko,
You
you want to talk to people?
You're in charge.
Look at
now,
your cute
Maneko.
little hat. Look at that little cute little hat.
Her Grace Maneko is going to join us and take the 13th level wizard out
Thank God.
of here. Get out of here,
Get outta here.
Xerxes. Thank you, Xerxes. Aileghnan is, of course, taking the time for us to interview people on Coach's Corner to talk to Barrick and James the Holy about swinging shots. So
All right.
he's left. Anywho, so kind
They're over
of
there talking stick now.
the base of the questions we're asking here is like, you fought a little bit today.
Yeah.
Did you fight yesterday?
Nope.
So the fighting that you've had so far,
Yeah.
What do you think of it? Like, what have you enjoyed yourself? Is there anything like you see that happens at War of the Phoenix that's different than anywhere else?
We were singularly fortunate to be hosting people in camp that we could pick their brains and have some incredible training opportunities. It was the best sort of like backyard practice where I think a lot of egos were taken out of the picture, and we were stressing solely technique and what is and is not working in any given situation. I really like the fact that with so many different brains and kind of kingdoms and the way we talk about fighting and look at things, if you don't understand it from one person, definitely the logic and knowledge that someone else is going to spit out is going to be totally different and phrased in a way that maybe it's like there's that light bulb. And I think as an unbelt, and I think anybody who's training up, you're going to find people that just say things to you in a new way that maybe your home knight was saying all the time, but Octa says it differently in that one little way that clicks. So that was really nice. I have weak ankles and a bad knee, so I wasn't in the ravine, and I took an opportunity to not do that and focus more on singles. But I mean, everything in the war has different aspects that you can enjoy and take advantage of, and that was mine.
Awesome.
Nice.
I think-
We did have a question from a listener. It says, how do you feel about cleats? Is anybody out there using them? Or do you guys use them?
Oh, I mean, I have to expect someone is. I fought in period shoes this whole time with, a treaded sole, but definitely period shoes. But I found that I needed to switch out of that for a little while because I have some tendonitis issues in the knee. So I am not doing anything but wearing some nice fluffy non-period shoes currently, but it allows me to still fight, and I think that's more important than what my footwear looks like. Having cleats on this current terrain, I don't know is going to do you any favors. You're going to slip around a little bit more. The gravel is a little slick. Honestly, I think the cleats wouldn't behoove you better.
I think cleats would. I don't like cleats in a war because you can't control always where you're at and who's coming at you. And if you don't get a foot up and somebody hits you and your cleat sticks and your knee doesn't, I don't think that's for me. Having fought in cleats in my younger days, I don't think I would fight in cleats now.
And I think it's kind of dependent too, right? Like Duke Spen from Monstiora uses soccer cleats, and they've got these little small rubber nuts,
which is great for grass.
And I'm sure like it would probably even do okay out here. But if you're using like football cleats or something like that where it's got that hard plastic cleat, like that's on this ground out here is not really going to be beneficial. And even in probably like the ravine,
that would definitely not be good on the rocks.
No, that probably just gives you something else to catch on
or slip.
Yep.
Got anything else, Tristan? Any other questions?
Well, kind of keeping up. Yes, some people are saying cleats wouldn't really make much sense out in that particular terrain. I think you brought up a great point of cleats really are meant to be able to cut on turf easily, like hard, really fast turns. But when you're carrying extra body weight with armor, the stress is going to go into the joint which is going to be the knee or the ankle when you grip and then you try to cut and turn. So cleats can be good, but be careful with them and make sure your legs and knees are conditioned for them, or you can get yourself in some trouble.
For sure.
And I think honestly, like that goes for probably any piece of equipment you're fighting with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thinking about swords and stuff too, right? Some people fight with really heavy swords, but then they want to fight like Aileghnan or somebody who's real fast. And it's like you can be fast with a heavy sword, but you cannot throw it like a tennis racket. It's not a tennis racket. That's, I think, just in general, like always be cautious of like, okay, like what's hurts, like listen to your body a little bit,
Armor for you.
Yep.
Get out for you.
Yeah. My favorite was Duke Rainer out, or not Duke Rainer, sorry, Sir Rainer out in Ontier, your area, and he was talking to me, and him and I are about the same age, and he was watching me fight, and then I like walked off the field kind of limping because I went a little too ham, and I'm still relatively young, but not as young as I used to be, and he looks at me and he goes, "Hey man, like I want to see you fighting when you're 60. Like I want to be able to fight you when we're 60." He goes, "You should consider looking at what you're doing because something you're doing is causing your back to not feel okay after you fight." And that's not like hey, you just lifted weights and you're sore. That's you're probably messing yourself up pretty bad. And it's I don't know, thinking of the cleats and stuff like that. Like it's made me rethink like what shoes do I wear or how do I put shots on the Pell or sort of stuff. So.
Yeah, I noticed years ago when I would go to Penzik, I had a year or two where I would go out and after I fought, I'd get kind of this lower back pain. And I had to finally find out that it was because I needed more work on my hamstrings. They just weren't balanced enough. And once I did that and I used straight leg deadlifts for them, the back pain would go away and I could go fight for 3-4 hours in a battle and come back and wouldn't even faze me. But go ahead.
I was on my toes and I'm quad forward, and so the doc had me do some strengthening all hamstring and calf just to get me more balanced on my legs because it was just pulling up on my hams. But he's like, "What do you do that you're on your toes?" I'm like, I've got a hobby, let me show you a video. And PTs are amazing people.
Yep.
They are, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I walk backwards for 15 minutes a day. That was part of my PT. It's magic. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, actually, Kith pointed out too. He says he likes hiking boots, and I think the other thing that cleats give you the advantage of is if you need to climb steep hills, because then you need a grip that you can actually climb the hill. So depending on the terrain you're fighting in, and I had a former squire brother that he was huge. He loved cleats, but he was a speedster. I mean, he would be all over that field. He would be almost at a run the whole time that he was fighting, and so it did give him that hill climbing advantage as well. But hiking boots, I think, are also a very good general alternative that you can fight on just about any terrain with them. You don't have to worry about what the surface is.
That's what I fight in right now. And I think there's a lot of, and like, to be fair, like, I was probably one of these people for a while where we look at it and we're like, hey, like, you should be fighting in period shoes. And honestly, like, I think there should be an attempt, right? Like, if you're wearing hiking boots, those are brown, those are leather looking, they're tan, right? If you're rolling around in lime green, something or others, Nikes like, okay. Like, I like that Sven's guys go and they cover all their shoes with their spats or whatever, but in, like, okay, put some black shoes on, put whatever's going to allow you to fight more, and make an attempt to make it not look like, a cartoon character or something. Do what you can, like, but we should, I don't know, the SCA is aging a little bit, and we need to think about our bodies a little more, so... Like, wearing proper shoes, even when you're just walking, man. Like, I spent way too much time in Crocs, probably at Penn State, but my feet didn't hurt, so.
Yeah.
Hey, I think Aileghnan has a couple of guests he wants to bring on.
Perfect.
Aileghnan.
Aileghnan.
You got your. You guys ready?
Yep.
Yeah. We'll let you have these.
It was nice talking to everyone.
Yeah, nice talking to you.
SCA family. Who is it? Is it me and you, Aileghnan? Or?
I'm going to bring in two guests. If you'll just hang near, so that, or go find yourself a guest.
Okay.
All right, Tristan. Let's see. Got two people coming in. His
We're right back, Aileghnan.
James the Holy, and a guy I met as Tyr a long time ago, but it goes by something completely different now.
Howdy, Barrick.
Yeah, Barrick is a count from the Outlands, and his grace. James the Holy is a duke from Glenaban.
Okay. Looks like it's getting dark there. You're turning into shadows.
Yeah, that's probably gonna. Hey.
Oh, there we go. That's a little better.
A pelican just came and dropped.
Just swooped in, pulled the lamp out of their weird ass, gigantic, fleshy beak thing.
Okay, that got weird.
Tristan, we wanted to talk a little bit. We were having a conversation offside. We were in a couple different places, and we may get to all those places again naturally, but we might not. But one of the things we started talking about a little bit that I thought was interesting is, maintaining enthusiasm and drive for the sport and for the SCA as a whole. As you're aging out, or as you're aging into a different sort of phase of your life. I think I might be putting the cart a little bit before the horse. I think the first thing we started with was, expectations that you put on yourself along your path, if that makes sense. So when you first start fighting, your expectations might be that you want to, maybe you want to start getting noticed and or performing particularly well in tournaments, and then at some point you want to start winning tournaments, perhaps, or but at least getting yourself in a position to do so. Perhaps somewhere down the line you get noticed and you're also serving and being a steward of the society, and you're offered the accolade. And along all of these paths, including winning crown, and then winning crown maybe a couple of times, some additional pressures get added to. I mean, it's not all just reward. There are some pressures that we'd kind of like to talk a little bit about. So why don't we start first with something that His Excellency did recently, which was he won his first crown, and the pressures that you put on yourself from that.
Right.
Good question.
Thank you. No, it was kind of interesting. I ended up winning a crown that was like the first event we were able to hold after the lockdown. And the crown that got canceled was kind of,
when it got canceled, there were no more events, kind of for that like 1.5, 2 year time frame. So it was interesting to kind of be in full isolation for that time, because my wife is a veterinarian, and she was an essential worker, and I stayed home. So I spent a lot of time really, thinking about and developing. What I was trying to do was apply my martial art to the games, the game we play, as best as possible. I try to take as much of the sport out and apply the techniques I know to be true from my mundane hobbies, and that gave me a lot of time to refine a lot of things. And then we came out of the pandemic, and I fought. Was very fortunate and had a great day. And it was also, I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people that were like, that was just so decisive. And it really came from having enough time to think about like what is truly important, being like a good fighter or triumphing in a fight. A lot of people get so stuck on, their special move or their active abilities, if you will, or their stance. And it's like, you can watch each fighter as they calcify into the way they fight and the way they approach things and what their best shot is.
What were your outside influences that you brought in?
What's up?
I'd say, what were the outside influences that you brought in to your SCA fighting?
Penjak Silat is an Indonesian martial art. It's pretty old. I started with Eskrima. I was doing Eskrima right up until I started in the SCA. And at that time, I was very much a hippity hoppity jump around. I was quick, but I was very flaily, I would say.
Sure.
And Silat has, in my travels and to different dojos and doing a lot of martial arts growing up, has the best that I have encountered vocabulary around structure as it applies to what your muscles and skeleton want to do, and how to apply that martially instead of fighting it in order to create a bunch of power.
You're in Tristan's wheelhouse here.
Yes, indeed.
It has a very, it's robust. There's answers to the questions. I've spoken to a lot of teachers over the years who are like, I don't know. I step there and then I kick my hip forward and the power's there. I don't know what you're doing wrong. They have a strict way to think about what your opponent's structure is, what yours is, and how to move between the two. And if you do that, always concentrating on your structure, and you're fighting an opponent who's just trying to either kill you or get away, you're always going to be in an advantageous position as they continue to retreat or reassess. So that was the main insight that I've tried to bring. And also pure swordplay. Like, I try not to block with my hand. I try not to throw a ton of shots that I've seen that are a little bit more sport enhanced, as far as I wouldn't throw that with a blade, in my opinion. And then just applying the very basic, say it one more time, strict adherence to the basic principles, right? That's really what it's become about for the last probably 2 years, for me.
Cool. Yeah. That's a great description.
So, not only, and I swear I'll bring James in, but I think His Excellency's journey is really interesting, because not long after he won Crown,
4 days,
he wound up having a fairly catastrophic injury, and that took him from
top of the world
an experience that
a permanent chair.
A lot of other royal peer by their own hands have sort of both the privilege and the responsibility of trying to re-earn it with every event they go to that they get to fight. I'm sure James experienced this as well. Is when you won your crown, and then you start going to events, whether it's your in kingdom or out of kingdom, you feel like you got to represent every time you suit up.
Yeah. People, and it starts from the beginning, right? So you see that it's pecking order stuff. It's just part of our game. So you know, the kid in your local group gets squires, all those squires want to measure that squire up. The new guy gets knighted, you know, the knights want to size that guy up, or the squires are trying to get there. So when you win that first crown, that gate, you know, bullpen's immediately open to the world because they want to see how you size up against, you know, people in your own kingdom, people out of kingdom, and that pressure never goes away because you, especially while you're sitting, feel like you have to represent your kingdom and what it means to be a knight and a crown of that kingdom. You know, and that's and you know, for the crowns that have the luxury and the ability to travel around, you know, you're at Pennsic, you're in, you know, the Shark Tank there because everybody's like, oh, that's the crown. But that's some of the best learning and training you're going to get to, I think, when you're open to the idea of like, hey, yeah, I'm also now starting a new path. And I don't look at it, for me at least, I didn't look at it as like so much as like I've got to prove myself, so much as more like now there's access to people that I normally wouldn't have access to before because now there's a little bit of notoriety and like, oh, that's a king. And man, that knowledge can come from anybody too. Because Lord knows I've had squires come out and just like, holy shit, like that kid's on fire. And that, you know, second crown I won changed all again. Like, well, now I'm a duke. Now I got to fight at a ducal level after I step off the throne, and I got to maintain that. And when you win, you know, you win another one. You know, because I've had the privilege of winning 3 times, and you know, that third time, it's maintenance at that point. Like to continue with that consistency of what it means to be at that level. And you know, I'm starting to get a little older now, and I realize like I am at that point, you know, kind of a breaking point where like I might be one injury away from my SCA career being completely over. You know, so it's also fighting that while trying to maintain a certain level, and it's a struggle.
And you know, I've got a few years on James, but I've got a very similar experience and a similar path. I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to be exemplary at our sport at every level that I've been, and try to always represent. And I certainly did it my first reign and second reign, and you know, subsequent reigns forward. But as James said, I have an idea in my head of what is ducal excellence, and it's not. I don't think it's actually what. I don't want to be offensive to anyone who's just now winning crown or anything else, but it's really not all that much to win a couple of crowns. There are fighters who have never won a crown who are actually better than 80-90% of the dukes out there. But
some of them are the smartest people.
They could be. They probably actually still enjoy the game. But I've always wanted to be really good. I mean, I've always wanted to be outstanding, and it's one of the things that's driven me. But the pressure, especially now, I'm 3 years. Well, I'll be 2 years outside of being 60 next week, and I push myself to still be really good, and I tend to actually fight really well. But I recover like I'm 60, and that's a thing that I didn't understand what that meant. And I fully understand what it means now, and I don't like it at all. One of the things that I've noticed personally is that my mental health takes its toll from being so exhausted from having to try to be exemplary, and to try to fight as well as I've ever fought. And I'm recovering so much harder. You know, it hurts. It's hard to get up. It's hard to move around. It's hard to start the recovery process appropriately. And I know that if I want to keep doing this, and I know I definitely want to keep doing this, I'm going to have to actually condition myself in a way that I've never conditioned myself. I've always been extremely lucky that the conditioning I got from fighting was enough.
Well,
and it's
also,
not now.
You also have to become very strict with yourself, and I don't want to interrupt your point, but I certainly have like a follow on or kind of a little bit more in that vein.
Oh, please do. Yeah.
No, I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself that's not necessary as far as like an external thing, but it's in me. But it's an interesting problem when, you know, I do have limitations that I have gained that I don't like, and that I'm generally, my personality is to not allow those limitations to change my actions, and then just gut it and bear it, right? It's my ankle, like it's the thing that allows my entire left foot to like function and move around. Footwork is my jam, right? And I deal with a lot of my own social insecurity about, if I'm not limping because I'm not super tired, it looks like I'm not injured. And when my friends are really excited and they ask me if I'm fighting, there's a lot of times where it becomes this conversation of like, hey man, I know I can probably fight one day, but it's going to be a gamble if I can fight after that. So I'm not fighting today and I'm not fighting tomorrow so that I can fight on Friday for this thing that I want. And then we'll see if Saturday, right? And it feels very like I don't want to have to enforce those limitations on myself. And I want to be worthy of having won my crown and like being that fighter. And so I press myself up until that point. And then you have also the pressure of not wanting to appear weak. So like, it's not easy, but if the best piece of advice I could give on that is like, just listen to your body and stop when you need to stop, but don't be afraid to like still do it, and with the understanding that you don't get to do it as much as you want. Like, it can still be worth it, and you can still be involved, and you can still have a shitload of fun.
So that's like the mental struggle you were talking about too, because I think a lot of people go through this too, because we all want to be the example, none of us want to be the excuse, right? And and you feel like you're letting your friends down, you feel like you're and that's a pressure we put on ourselves, because you tell your friends like, I'm hurt or I'm sick on this, most of the time they're going to give they're going to give you a little grace for that, but we put that pressure on ourselves because we just don't want to let people down. Well, we don't want to let ourselves down. We don't, it's just, and that is, we do that to ourselves, and it's I don't think it's fair. It's not right, but it's also driving. Right. So it's like there's a balance
that
we all have
to driven me to be better than I would have been if I didn't have those pressures on myself. So it is like the knife edge there too.
Yeah. So I think that's good advice and a good way of thinking about things. And I mean, I wouldn't know how to quit the SCA.
Fair.
So, that's not really an option. Finding ways to enjoy it on my days off, because I've got to take on a multi-day event like this war, I have to take almost as many days off as I am on. And I also, used to, probably foolishly, I used to pride myself that I could probably outfight and outdrink you. And now I can maybe do one of those things one day and at the exclusion of the other one entirely. So I'm not going to outdrink anyone, and I'm, if I want to have fun, and I do want to have fun, I want to. Not only do I want to have fun fighting at an event like this, I also feel an obligation to put myself out there to teach and train and coach up the next generations. I feel very strongly about that. So I think it's been really good to be able to talk with other people who are experiencing similar things. Maybe not even for the exact same reason yet, but similar things and how they're approaching it. But this is something I'm going to kick or fix, because I don't know how to quit, nor would I want to quit. I've never had anything in my life as consistently rewarding as being in the SCA. With the sole exception of, trying to be a decent husband and parenting. So my priorities might be really screwed up, but they're my priorities.
No, fair. I get it. The other thing too is you don't have to like need a cane to use a cane a half day. If you're walking around, it can really extend the longevity, especially at like a 5-day war, where like if you got some twinges in your hip or your back or your knee or whatever, and you're fine, I'm sure you're fine. Like you can. It was embarrassing to me because I felt weak using it, and the fact of the matter is that's shouldn't be in there, and you should use the tools that are available to help yourself last longer and make the recovery less difficult.
So I'm going to just jump on that. I'm going to go find our next guest, but I'm going to let these two guys roll for a few minutes while I'm doing that. But
As you do that, I wanted to jump in with something, and there was a listener made a comment, and I was going to do this same one myself, and it said, seek professional help if anything is painful. And my wife is a rehab specialist, and she works with martial artists, athletes of all types. And one of the things is not letting yourself get to that point of, I'm screwed, my body's just quit on me, and I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing. Yeah. Find somebody that can help your body get back to where you want it to be. And it's never going to be back to the 22-year-old you, but you can still get it to a point where you can play and do what you would like to do. And you're not limited by being, not able to go anymore. We've seen people that lack an arm or lack a leg that still go fight. They find a way to do it because their heart and their passion gets them to that point. But assistance, and I would say if I had to do over again, I would like to have found somebody earlier on that could help me with the tweaks and the pains and the structural issues that come from, driving my body like a race car, because athletes do that. Yeah. And get a good mechanic.
Literal crutch or a literal cane. I want to just extend the metaphor and say how grateful I am that I have metaphorical crutches in the fact that I've got an incredible group of friends throughout the known world who, if I say I'm struggling with something, are going to let me lean on them for a while I try to right the ship. I'm going to go find our next guest, let these guys roll for a minute, and I'll be back shortly.
Absolutely.
Drop some knowledge on us, old James the Holy. You got a homily?
I preach this a lot, and I think it's important to say, like being here for me, because I'm I'm out of Glenavon, so New Orleans area. If you have access to go to these multiple wars, get out, man. Get out and do it. I'm in a camp with 5 different kingdoms. We talk fighting, we talk shop, and the smaller you can make your SCA community, the better it is. The SCA seems so big, but man, when you really meet people and all that, and the smaller, tight-knit groups you can create and stuff, it opens avenues and doors and understanding to fighting that you might not have had before, and verbiage and everything.
And you never know who knows who, right?
Yeah.
You get connected with the right people.
Hey, Brad, how you doing?
Howdy do.
Edward Gray.
Hello there. Who just joined us?
I'm trying to figure out how an introduction's done around here.
There's a part of me that just wants to sing your praises for a second. Can I introduce you that way? So
you may.
So today during the battles, I got the privilege of seeing some of the best example of decision making and economy of motion that I've seen. I was dead already. I had been shot right in the face with an arrow, and I was standing back behind waiting for the fight to be over, and it was right at the end, and the lines were kind of starting to disintegrate, and you start to see that we are going to lose. And I saw Edward notice that everything was lost, and he kind of made that snap decision. Well, all right, and he turned and he stepped left, and he killed someone right as he saw over his shoulder a guy sprinting at him, a shield guy, to knock him over with his 9-foot, and he just smoothly turned, cross-checked that guy, arresting his motion as he poleaxed the guy behind him, literally in so many words that took way longer than it took to do it. And I just wish we had that on video, because it was a truly excellent thing to watch. So,
nice.
Fight.
Well, Ed Donis says he recognizes you and says to say hi. Donis from the Mid-Realm.
Awesome.
I think that's Donis. Yeah. So cool. I hope you're enjoying your war out there.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're never going to get faster as we get older, right? But getting the economy of motion down, making your defenses offensive postures is one way to get there.
Yep, absolutely. It's the only way to get there.
Yep.
Did you notice a change in your fighting? Like from you? Was there a moment that you were definitely I've got to change this?
I'm a little older and I have to change this.
Oh, I mean, so that fight broke 20 seconds before that, we were on the left, and we were getting condensed because we were getting pushed out on the angle. Like, I can't stay here, otherwise I'm just going to be pincushioned.
Yeah.
So I pulled out to the center and tried to arrest that. And it's like, we're being overwhelmed, so things have got to start dropping.
Yeah.
Right. And in a fight, right, regardless of the fight, if the opposition has momentum, you have to change the game.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I attempted to change the game. I wasn't successful. Right.
There were far too many. The English are too many.
But you've got to change your rhythm if you're going to have a chance.
Yeah.
I think that was a good question that I don't know if it came across. He was throwing out. Did you, in your journey, did you have a moment in time where you had kind of realized, like, I have to change some things up because I am getting older and the
absolutely.
recovery is harder? Maybe what did that look like?
Yeah. Well, so sorry, I'm going to just only
Yeah, that's
slightly,
totally
just because
fair.
I am. Yeah, there we are.
You don't want to look at your
I want to.
bottom half of your own.
There we go. No, I took James entirely out. Okay.
Oh,
But,
there we go.
But anyway, so God, it's been a decade now. So I started. I'm an Eastern Knight. Penzic's a big deal. Melee's a big deal. And so, being a tall, long guy, I essentially fought forward pull effectively with sword and board. Right. That half step ahead of the line.
And the defense.
I allowed my spears to get extra ranges, and anybody who wanted to counterfire against their spears would get hit with a sword, right? And so I was fighting.
Unbelievable.
I was fighting 42-inch sticks with nice little beef on them, 1.38 plus.
Right.
And I realized eventually that was a little too much. Or actually, before that, I started coming out here and went from slung kite to center boss, because anybody's familiar with the butcher that holds the beef side of beef up and cuts it the other side, right? You start looking like a crab. Right?
Yeah.
And so going to center boss got my structure more fluid, my shoulders more balanced.
As it does.
Less tiny muscles getting overutilized, right? So I did that first, and then I shortened the sword down. A problem I had, however, was I happened to be competitive, and I made that sword change up just before Penzic, and then I had a shorter stick, and then I overthrew because I couldn't get to my targets.
Yeah,
right? So
that'll happen.
So that journey is, has some.
Yeah. But that's good to hear too, though. From people who I certainly look up to you, and I'm looking forward to watching you fight and seeing you, and to hear that, the journeys are. There's always stuff that doesn't necessarily come to the surface, or when somebody looks at you now, they don't necessarily see that there was iteration and problem solving, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You got to just try some stuff and be open to those people that you run across who are willing to help you refine it, right? But that requires a large portion of ownership of what you're doing, and recognizing that those people aren't coming to try and put you down or make you feel like you're not a good fighter. They've seen something, and by very definition, they've taken time out of their day and their life, whatever they got going on, to try and articulate it to you. So if you can approach that with curiosity and a willingness to compare it to what you know of reality, as opposed to approaching it with defensiveness and a need to validate what you were doing, you can probably see a much better upward trend in your ability, I think.
Yeah, it's one of the comments we made earlier. This is the only sport where the coaches have to prove themselves before, the students will listen. Like Squires will be out there, and Knight, Duke, whoever, doesn't matter, come out and give advice, and usually there's kind of that bug back. Well, who are you? Or I've never fought you before, and all that. And it's just,
you don't look that good.
Yeah, and it's just weird coming from a sports background. It's just kind of weird to me that's I box and wrestled and stuff, and somebody comes, some other coaching, listen, and it's not always best advice, but nobody's ever going to intentionally give you bad advice,
right? And wake up this morning and think how can I screw that guy over?
and
teach him wrong techniques so he loses more.
Yeah.
It's.
But some people are also ignorant.
Yeah.
Or
let me back up. We're all ignorant of something.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, or even lesser so, just tunnel visioned on one specific aspect of what's going on, right? You can miss a much more low-hanging fruit of something that could tighten up your game very quickly and give you a new set of processes to use, but because some mentor or teacher is so hyper fixated on the way that they just don't like what your elbow does when you throw this specific shot, right? You'll miss the fact that there's all kinds of ways to, like what you were saying, it's not this big holistic get faster and better. It's like each of your techniques and each of your things, if you can slowly just add 1% of speed or relaxation or economy of motion over time, that builds up to like 20% faster at everything, right? So
how many pieces to fighting are there? How many vectors for?
I mean, yeah. So theoretically, there is a ton of percentage that you could get if you were willing to take the time, but it's boring. That's why there's not, that's why people find it hard to get better and really do the journey. And you watch people and your friends fall off or get annoyed or get bored. A lot of that stuff is boring, even regardless of painful, even if you're not going to practice every week and just getting nuked by some jerk, right? You gotta do a lot of swinging and stepping and thinking and staring at a wall and like getting stabbed in the face and standing in the back of the line waiting to get back into the pit. Like, none of that is glamorous or fun.
And small changes can have big effect.
Say that one more time.
That small changes can have big effect.
Absolutely.
Maybe in your first year, you might make what you seem to be big changes, and that has big effect. But as you get into it, you realize you're doing fine tuning, but the effect that it has is going to be noticeable, very noticeable.
Much more far-reaching.
Yes, very much so. And takes a high level of discipline to mind all of the variables. I mean, there's so many little details to keep track of, but they pay off when you start doing it.
Right. And I don't know anyone who's got an unbroken line of just
correct.
Need breaks, people need time off. Like, you can't, like, there's a fair level of intensity here too,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And how many things have you gone through that you've had to unlearn? Things that you absolutely knew were right, and you eventually find out, nope, that's bullshit. It doesn't work. I am fucking myself over, and I need to go back and unlearn that and retrain it in a better way. I think everybody's had that.
Yeah.
I think that's the joy of like a lot of these YouTube shows, Coach's Corner and all these shows coming out too, is that they've narrowed, they've kind of narrowed the lane of our training is in the aspects of like, now the verbiage is starting to be universal. When somebody says thumb lead, they know what a thumb lead is, because like we all see videos of people talking, and that just that alone, I think, has made fighting a lot easier than what it was decades ago.
It's building the lexicon.
Right?
Yeah. Now talk to somebody at Penzic about this shot you were doing, and they're like,
"You're speaking the same language."
We call that a wigwam here. It's like, well, what?
Yeah. It's funny because you guys are in an event, you're sitting around. This is what originally I envisioned Coach's Corner being, is all the learning that happens we just got done fighting. We're sitting around enjoying the day. We're sharing our observations of what worked, what didn't, what we learned from each other. Like, to me, that was the pollinization that could happen on a wider scale that I was really excited about bringing. So you guys are showing what it is right here.
And today I got a refresher that when I tell all my students to wait forward on the ball of your feet, I wasn't doing it all the time. I'm like, damn it.
Yep. That's it. My old instructor, my Aikido instructor, would tell me, he said, if you look and see all of your students have the same bad habit, take a wild guess where they're getting it from. They're watching you do it, and you're showing it to them, and they're copying you, and now you're seeing it in the mirror.
Bad habits. Well, thanks a lot for having us on too.
You bet. Thank you for joining in. Hopefully Aileghnan is flirting about there and going to drag some people in, but it was kind of cool to watch the sun go down behind you guys as this went on.
For anybody
in the dark.
the ability to come out to War of the Phoenix, it is amazing. Fighting's great. The scenery is beautiful.
The sun comes up on the mountains that way, and it is something to see for sure.
Wow.
And I mean, any of that, get out of your comfort zone, right?
100%. Go to other places and fight people you never fought before. Be curious. Be open-minded, and keep going back. If you ever don't know what you should work on, just do the most basic thing you can think of and make it a little bit better. There's business by Barrick.
You know, one of my favorite things are going out to Gulf Wars. I was in Australia one time, but I've been to a lot of Penzix and Lily's Wars. I loved going and watching the pickup fights. I would see things that I would never see in my own kingdom or at my own practices at tournaments where I was. And I liked watching, native fighters as well. But boy, you watch people from different regions and different areas, and they got so many different things you've never seen, just to start to absorb and say, I want to be able to do something like that. Then you get your arm around and all right, let me go try this. Let's see how they did it, try to break it down. And even better when you get to go talk to them and say, explain this to me. Show me exactly what you just did, how you did that.
Why did you do it?
Yeah, why? What do you need to set up in order to do this? When does it work? When would you never do it? All of those things that's just gold.
But yeah, the conversation I was having the other day was more. It was with Master Allen back home. Was more about this. What is your philosophy of fighting? How do you approach an engagement? What are you trying to establish? How are you trying to get there? What are you thinking about when you're setting up a shot, right? Because we go through a lot of the physical mechanics. Mm-hmm. That holistic view, what are you trying to accomplish, right? That's a thing to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. So each of you answer that same question. What is your process? What do you go through?
Well, right now, so we were talking about retuning for getting older. Well, I'm in the middle of another retune, right? So the right, getting older, right? So there's in some of the German sword schools, there's the concept of the master stroke, right? So I'm behind an initiative, I'm going to regain that initiative, right? Or how you intercept blows as opposed to block and strike. I'm taking your attack, I am defending against it, and I'm hitting you in that same beat, that same measure, right? So instead of having to do two things, I can do one thing. But my timing and perception have to be spot on to make all that work. And so I've won my crowns for my early with sword and board. I love longsword, but my issue with longsword is I'm not Duke Mark. I can't. Yeah. Right. I'm still vulnerable. I still can't. With a sword and board, I can enter into the list and understand that you are not going to touch me. Mm-hmm. I can't do that with longsword.
You don't have that confidence.
But by longsword, you mean two-handed sword?
So by longsword, I'm bastard sword. I'm 5 foot, not 6.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Boat oar that a couple of people used one time.
But then, getting into that, I recognized some of the Duke Visivalds in my kingdom, and so he's into Mare. And then I realized, right, this is all late German stuff. Okay, similar mentality, but that is a slow form. It is not reliant on speed; it's relying on timing and position. And I own the line, right? Mm-hmm. And they're all the same school of thought, but different vectors into that school of thought. And so I'm trying to pull that thread through. And then there's so many things that go back into sword and board, if that's what I'm using at the time. I love just gathering into ox with a shield and stabbing the guy in the face because it's immediately there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's part of what is my future going to look like? How am I going to get there? How am I going to be 10 years older and still beating these guys like Xerxes, who's a lot faster than I am? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So fast.
Cool. Barrick, how about your answer? How do you approach it?
So, kind of stemming back to what I was talking about before as far as martial art, the martial salat. core principles are I have an upper base and a lower base. I know how I can step and turn so that I'm never moving them at the same time, which means that I'm either setting a line with my arms or with my arm and my shield, and then moving across a plane in strong structure, or I am moving along that plane in strong structure, and when I land where I am, I've already brewed the shot that I'm not trying to throw it. I'm trying to get into your space just enough so that you have to make a decision whether or not you're going to try to throw into my good structure or you're going to try to reposition.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see how long that takes and how close I can get to you and how many like little potty like out from C range shots I can get until I have that assessment of okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to repeatedly cause you to make the decision to reposition. And when you do that, since I was already ready in good structure as I moved, I fire into that void, adding an extra beat where the next reposition is a little more frantic. And usually by about the second or third reposition, I've been taking pretty concerted, easy steps through their center line as they try to zigzag or create distance and throwing, powerful, like you can't ignore the shot, right? So I basically want my opponent to be thinking about getting away from me, and I want to be standing where they'd like to stand, and they usually they give me the shot if I go one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. I like that they give you the shot. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, if you're always ready to throw and you're never reaching in the same way, then when the shot comes, you won't have to make a split decision or rely solely on your reflexes.
Mm-hmm.
You can control where your vulnerabilities are and be ready to fire, and then just wait. You don't have to take the first one.
Yeah, very much so. James, how about your perspective?
So like for me, I lost a couple years ago. I was close to 400 pounds. I lost well over 150 pounds, and fighting totally changed because then Big Shield, I was just kind of a battle platform.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I could kind of, my defense was good enough and all that, and I had enough powerful shots that I could kind of weather the storm enough and blast one or two good ones in. Losing the weight, concepts of fighting that before I was too afraid to try because we'll step this way. It's like, well, yeah, I got 400 pounds on a
I ain't trying to put that on this chicken leg.
And I took a couple bad spills and all that and hurt myself a couple times. So the concepts that I'd kind of stored away and all that I'm now 3-4 years after all the weight loss and stuff, I'm still kind of piecing together because I'd been given all these puzzle pieces, but didn't know what the final puzzle looked like. So now I'm just trying to, I'm trying to master my practice and what knowledge has been given to me. So it's that, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes permanent type philosophy. So I'm making sure, like now when I'm doing my pel work, that each step is what it should be. Because at first, like, oh, just move to the side. Well, when you're 400 pounds, you move to the side, it's 6 inches. When you use 150 pounds and you do that same jump, it's 18 inches.
Yep.
So it's like, holy shit, like that's way more than I needed to jump.
Yeah. You drive a dump truck different than you drive a pickup truck.
Yeah, 100%. So, my philosophy now is just it's making sure that all the basics that were taught to me are what they should be, for one, and relearning my body and like what limitations I have now compared to the limitations I had before and vice versa, because I'm not nearly as strong as I was before, but I'm faster. So how can I make it count?
So, even the difference of 30 to 30 pounds is you're now dealing with a new body. It's a different machine than it was.
It totally is.
Well, and endurance level, just sheer endurance is huge.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I remember I got in like real good shape for like 6 months because I had no friends, and I was up in Wisconsin, and I went to a fighter practice up there and didn't really know anyone, and doing a little couple of melee scenarios, real small, and I remember like this guy kind of ran up and I did a little juke and then went to stuff his charge, and he just launched me. Like an experience I had never had. Like as I'm flying through the air, I'm like, what just happened? And I went and ate a hamburger that day.
I started losing weight right prior to COVID. It started dropping weight. COVID happened, the big break. Come out of the break, won a crown list, and I'm like, all this weight, all this energy and stuff. And, first melee I went to, see two little guys with shields, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to break. I'm gonna ruin them. Go charging, and I felt like hitting a brick wall. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's what that feels like.
That's what running into Franny used to feel like.
Get low.
Absolutely. Yeah, it changes things a lot. And people that take some time off and either they come back heavier or they come back lighter and then think, I'm just going to move the same way I always did, usually results in a big wake-up call.
Hey, Tristan, how are we doing for time?
We're doing real good. We are at 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Okay. Well, yeah.
This is Duke Ibrahim.
Yeah, His Grace Ibrahim.
He just won.
I'm good. Trick chair.
Good.
Sweet.
Well, welcome.
He is coach's corner.
Yep.
So this will be fun.
Yeah.
We're gonna let you interview Ibrahim.
Oh, oh God. So I met you back at Estrella.
Yeah.
Many moons ago.
A long time ago.
I need to find my.
When I met you, I was hanging out with a number of the Outlands crew, and they revered you as a legend.
Oh, God.
Right. Right. But that was like, watch that guy.
Okay.
Right. And so we were doing an Outland prize tourney.
Nice.
And that year it was, hold the field. So the entry rounds were hold the field, it was a bear pit. You enter, you hold the field until you get knocked out, and then you get back in line, and you get 25 kills, you advanced into the 16. And so Ibrahim and I were in the same list, and you were knocking people out. And all right, so that's what I'm looking at, right?
Yeah.
I took some time to watch. But so that was like 2015, 2016 or something?
Somewhere around there, yeah. That sounds about right.
So when did you get knighted, and what did that feel like to you in terms of that experience coming up?
What the experience of getting knighted was?
Or how did you get to that point, and when was that? And
I was actually just talking to somebody about this yesterday, and I had kind of like a number of plateaus as I'm fighting, but the real thing that it launched me up quickly was that I counted out actually how many days I put on armor out of the year, and it was every other day. I had armor on for the first 2 years of playing. So if you want to get good quick, that's the way to do it. Put armor on and find somebody to fight.
Yep.
I got knighted after 4 years in the game. And I felt like it was a little early, but at the same time, like I've had a long career as a knight, and so I'm a proponent of knighting people when they're young and are on that upswing,
When was that you got knighted?
I got knighted in 99, yeah.
Okay. Right. So you'd been a knight like roughly 15 years when I first saw you.
Yeah.
Certainly a strong defense, plenty of power base. Oh my God, right.
Yeah, my forearms are kind of one of the things that I've used a lot in my fighting. I remember when I was out on the East Coast, and they weren't ready for that. They're like, he can generate power from here to there and have enough to hit you with it. Look at the size of those arms. So, I have that advantage that I used extensively. Right. To get that power,
But you were always well grounded in position when you were throwing stuff like that.
Yeah. So when I first started fighting, and right before I won my first crown, I practiced a lot of martial arts, Kali Eskrima and Filipino knife fighting. Have a lot of correlation as far as the footwork and the strikes that they do are very similar to what we're doing. So I use that to gain the footwork is really getting your stance and your power stance and how to not get knocked over and how to throw a shot and take a shot at the same time.
Can we just stop for 1 second and say, post-pandemic, 75% of the advice that I was giving people was pick your foot up and step left or right. So footwork is so foundational.
Probably the most important thing to fighting somebody. If you don't have footwork, you have nothing.
So if you don't love your footwork, find somebody. Let's start there.
Mhm.
But
Cali Eskrima had a lot of great footwork techniques. They used a lot of triangles, which I'm a big fan of.
Yep.
In how they move, and so yeah, having that, and I had like a one-on-one trainer with that style, and so it kind of like it helped me a lot for my SCA fighting, not directly but indirectly.
Awesome. So you've been a knight for what, 25 years, roughly.
Shit, yeah, it's getting
Right.
good lord.
Right. So you look back over that. What things that stand out.
I had a few turning moments that I thought I did pretty well. Some I'm not so proud of, like, oh, you won that. I'm like, yeah, but I was in a different headspace at the time, the things that I always come back to that I love the most is the melee combat. I love being in the thick of the fray, and just like I get to kill a lot of people that way. And if I can pull my dagger, like I had the 5-man tourney, I got to kill 3 people with my dagger in one bout. Like it was just, and I was like flying through the air, like I'm a kid again. This is great fun. I tell people back at home, like, why do you do this? I'm like, there is no finer feeling than hitting somebody in the face as hard as you can with a stick. I love it.
Awesome. So in melee, how do you approach that? Do you approach it the same way you approach singles fighting, or in what ways are they different or the same?
Very different. Singles fighting is more like a tennis match. I gotta calculate my opponent. How fast are they, and am I faster, or do I need to rely on my defense to get through them? Whereas if I'm looking at a melee, I'm like, all right, which one of these guys can I do a quick spin around, or who can I dodge and duck and take out quick? Who can I get a snipe shot on? But you got to be looking at all 8 guys at once. Like one of the drills we used to do back when I was starting is we would do 2-on-1 drills constantly, and they helped. Footwork is so important when you're doing a 2-on-1, but it helps you be able to get a quick shot in and then move on to the next guy, or be able to manipulate one person around the other. Like, is he going to charge? Because if he's a charger, that's great, because then I can sidestep, I can move him in the way of the other guy, and then I'm going to leave him over there and kill his friend, and then I'm going to turn back on him and get him. So
dotting the I, crossing the T, limit their offense.
Exactly. So I guess in that sense, it is the same. You're trying to manipulate your opponent, trying to get them to do a fake, trying to get them to throw a shot or commit to a charge, that you can counter easily. I guess I never really thought about it like that, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot of crossover.
I apologize. This is less interviewee, but more as I'm trying to distill what I'm telling people, I try really hard, if I can, to say a thing in a way that applies to both fields.
Yeah.
Because that way I'm pretty sure it's true, but you're never certain until you're proven wrong. Right. But awesome. So, have you had squires? I've had,
yes. Okay, that was there's more to that.
Yeah.
I've had squires. I've had a lot of squires. I've only had one squire that was actually elevated. But a lot of my squires, I've had, I think, 6 squires total. And only one of them still plays. 2 of them really, because one of them isn't a squire anymore. But he still plays. So
So in terms of that relationship, in terms of getting that advancement, what did you work? What were I'm trying to get language. So I'm not much of a speaker. I apologize. What things were really successful? What things you wouldn't have traded in for the world? Give me some good things.
So I think I had a very short time as a squire myself, and I feel like I missed out on that.
Sure.
I was only a squire for about 10 months, and it was an important 10 months for me. Like, I was learning a lot from that night I was squired to. And then I kind of felt a little cut loose, but you still had that the one thing that he was very insistent is you still have that relationship even after you've gotten that accolade. And that, like, I keep still call it my one squire who got knighted. I still call him my squire,
Right.
even though he's not my squire anymore. You know.
Yep.
So having that connection, have that, you know, the bond with, like, I think I hadn't felt that connection with a squire yet until he actually got that elevation, and I was like, all right, you know, like, there's one down, 5 to go. You know, wherever they are.
Yeah.
But you know, we did so many events together. Like, it was kind of like, you know, we were a pair for like 2 years. We practiced all the time together. We would event together. You know, just me and him occasionally, and just like little, you know, day trip events or whatever. You know, like, let's go hit this, you know, practice over here. And getting that bond with somebody was so important. And then they learn your style so good, and then you can go out there and beat all the best fighters of someplace, and then your squire's gonna come up and kick your ass. And I'm like, God, I don't look that good when I fight him.
Well, he was watching and paying attention.
He was watching and paying attention, so.
Well, that's, and right, and that's, I mean, in simply learning a thing, I mean, that is the most important thing out there, right? Is learning and paying attention, because you don't do the one without the other.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
And
teaching, I think, is the most important part of learning. Somebody said that to me when I was in high school. That always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And
right.
So whenever I want my squires to learn more, or if I need my students to learn more, I will instruct them to teach somebody else how to do what I just taught you to do. Or something that you know how to do, you think really well, teach somebody else how to do that really well. Because it's going to make you analyze what you're doing and how you do it. You know, like, so teaching.
It certainly humbles you when you're asked a simple question. It certainly humbles you when you're asked a simple question and you can't answer it. Even though you know how to do what they just asked, you can't explain it yet.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very much so.
Yeah, right. It convinces you just how little of this art form you know, right?
Yeah.
How much more is to be learned.
And how much are we making up on the spot?
Right. Oh my. But yeah, that is absolutely true. Goodness. So, what else do I need to ask you about? I mean, so I can't interview Ibrahim without talking about there are in the lineage of War of the Phoenix, there's Estrella War, and in the lineage of any good long-lasting event, there are a couple events that Mother Nature makes it more entertaining than it needs to be.
Yes, it does.
And so, in the year of the sandstorm, I had the great fortune to experience Midnight Bacon, and there's no better Midnight Bacon than what this man does.
Nice.
We spice on that thing, cured it for like a few weeks, then smoked it over the fire in Estrella. The picture of like the sun setting, the bacon cooking over the fire, dripping fat. It's very romantic. That bacon.
Nice. I've heard some this from a number of different senior martial artists. They say that the most dangerous people they ever met also cooked really well.
That tracks, yeah.
Oh my Lord. I'm not going to forget that moment as long as I live. But anyway.
Yeah.
We did have a question from somebody that just posted. They said, "Are there any torchlight tourneys that are lined up for out there this year? Do you know?"
I haven't heard of any. I always loved torchlight tourneys. I thought there was a great sword tourney that was supposed to happen torchlight.
Oh.
But
okay.
I am not one to read a gate book, so I just hope that people tell me these things.
Yes.
Hope to catch the rumor.
Yeah,
well, cool. I think we're at 90 minutes. Unless Aileghnan's there to kind of wrap up, if he's wandering around, we'll see if he's available.
Ailegnan, you want to wrap it?
All right, good chatting with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice meeting you both.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming on and sharing.
All right. Hey, Tris, thanks so much for all the studio excellence.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for lining this up. It's always fun to see things going on out live in the field and hearing from people that are out enjoying and having a good time.
Are there any questions left from the audience?
Just the last one about torchlight tourneys, if there are any arranged out there, but it doesn't sound like they had any for the schedule.
We're all too old to see in torchlight.
So
Here's
maybe a blind old man tourney with white canes.
about torchlight tournaments. I don't like them. Too many people use all their senses to calibrate, and when their visual sense is diminished, their ability to calibrate goes down. And overall, I have just seen some of the most atrocities, the worst atrocities I've ever seen at torchlight tournaments. So I personally am not a fan. It's the same thing as when people can't actually hear the shots, as they've got so much padding they can't hear the shots to their helm. I mean, we use all of our senses to calibrate, and so when you start diminishing some of them, it gets weird.
But I do have to say, Battlemore and Casca and Zipster made an awesome display one year. Oh my God!
Was it? But did it go? Did it go theatrical?
They were both fun to watch.
Because I've seen a lot. I've seen torchlight tournaments that were a lot of fun, but I rarely see a torchlight tournament that I would say was particularly clean.
Some people just like the mess.
So if the question is legitimately how to do well in a torchlight tournament, you kind of, I think you just swing a heck of a lot. You start swinging from outside of range to get into range, and let it go, because people can't see the blows coming in as well. So you might as well start throwing them as soon as you can.
There's that. Well, excellent. Aileghnan, is there anything you wanted to wrap up with?
Mostly I just wanted to, again, sort of give props to the war. The people who are running the war this year are His Grace Trelawn, and I think His Grace Mark are big parts of it, and their staff. They've all been outstanding. They've worked very hard to make sure that everyone that comes to the event is treated like a guest and has the best time they possibly can. So on behalf of them, I will say thank you, though, for everyone who did come this year, for choosing to spend your vacation dollars on this venue and to help our experience be so much fun. And hopefully we'll even see more people next year.
Yeah. Just as another question, did you guys get any idea of the numbers of people that are there? Like, how big is the event? Do you know?
I think it's about 100,000.
Okay, sounds good. Not quite the Super Bowl, but maybe it'll get there someday.
I in fact do not know the actual number count.
I think more important than the numbers, even though there are a lot of people here, are all the cultures. Yeah. Do yourself a favor from somebody who hasn't traveled broadly. Yeah. Get out there and travel, meet people, learn their cultures, share styles, mesh it. The SCA that we have is amazing, and to get to experience other people's culture.
We've got East, Ontier, Aidenveld, but we've had come through.
Drachenwald's here.
We've had just in this camp alone, there's Callantyre, Glenaubin. But here's the thing. We all have so much in common. And sometimes we need to actually look for the things that we have in common. And then that'll allow us to see through some of the things that we maybe don't have in common. I remember when I was coming up in the SCA, there were kingdoms that I would be like, I don't like that kingdom. I don't like how they do this, or I don't like how they do that. What I actually had to do was grow up, learn about people, learn how to understand that people are people, and what we had in common was far greater than what we had apart. And wow, my whole enjoyment of the entire game was opened up because I now have friends from everywhere. There's no place that I would be, so-and-so from this place or whatever. It's, come to a big international war, an interkingdom war rather, and be open to meeting new people from different places and learning what they do different, and then celebrating what you guys do the same.
Absolutely.
That's good advice. In fact, that leads us into letting me know what the next episode coming up on Coach's Corner is, which is how changing kingdoms affects your path. So getting into a new culture and a new environment can can affect your growth. So we'll be looking forward to that discussion coming up on the 21st.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. Thank you again for all of your hard work in the studio to make this happen for us. And to everyone,
you're welcome, and thank you guys.
I almost said Wednesday evening. To everyone who spent their Friday evening with us online, thank you very much. And those of you who are catching us on YouTube, thank you for putting your eyeballs on us.
Yep. Have a good night, everybody. Great weekend.